Good morning, Idaho. Hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're listening. Welcome to the Local Yokel Idaho podcast. We're talking about what is going on in the wonderful state of Idaho. This week, I'll be talking about Jay Leno's upcoming visit to Idaho, the Rigby Draft Horse Show, and an interview with Forrest Tomlin. Join me for the morning banter and weekly facts, but if you're short on time or prefer to skip the banter, you can now use the timestamp that is down in the description to jump straight to the stories. Welcome back. I hope you all had a wonderful week. I most certainly did. I kind of enjoyed how it was a little rainy in the first half, and then we kind of warmed up slowly throughout the week so I could enjoy the weekend and make it nice for gardening and different stuff and all that and everything. I mean, it definitely was interesting. It still is interesting, the fact that it was like raining on Sunday and stuff. It just, yeah. Weather's kind of odd that way with Idaho. It kind of has its own mind sometimes, shall we say. But hey, at least we're getting that variation. It's been nice that I haven't had to water a ton. I know my mulberry tree here on the property has been very, very happy. Honestly, actually, like the tastiest mulberries we've had ever. Just because I think the amount of rain, because it's a really big mulberry tree, and I feel like if it doesn't get enough rain, it doesn't produce as good of like a mulberry because there's so many that's sucking from the same pool. But since we got so much rain this year, it worked out just perfectly with the mulberry tree. So really happy about that. With that said, I'm going to try to make this morning banter a little bit short, mainly one, because I don't have a ton to share about this last week, and two, because there's an interview that I did with Forrest Tomlin, which I am super excited about. And I think it turned out pretty well. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's the first one we've ever done here on the podcast. I've known him for a super long time, and we were chatting and stuff and different things, and he was mentioning that he was going over to the Idaho Republican Central Committee thing, if I remember correctly, and was doing that and stuff. And I was like, well, then we should have you on to talk about that and share. And because the conversation we were having and stuff, I was like, well, let's get this on recording. Let's kind of record this and have this on the show. So we did that. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I know we're probably going to have him on the next, what would that be? I'm trying to remember how my schedule works. Yeah, next week for you guys, week after next for me. We're going to have him on, and you guys can hear and listen to him kind of after the conference, but what we recorded was kind of a pre-thing. With that said, I did want to share some thoughts about the Emmett Cherry Festival. I know for a lot of you, probably a little bit back, but I know I went last weekend, or there would be a weekend, 2 weekends back for you guys. But completely honest, this was my first time going to the Emmett Cherry Festival. And it definitely didn't disappoint. If you're a person who likes a lot of high action and it's really, really busy and a lot of people and different stuff, like kind of some of the bigger fairs or different stuff that happened down in the valley, then you probably would have enjoyed it. But I really enjoyed it because it was a little bit more laid back. It wasn't super crazy. Granted, it might have been the weather that was super nice because, like, I swear, whenever I go to like the Boise fair or different stuff in the summertime, they always have to plan it in like the hottest times of the year. And it just drives me mad because I'm like, cool, I want to enjoy this, but then I'm outside and it's just cooking me with the sun. Thankfully, the time that I was there for the Emmett Cherry Festival was like cloudy and overcast, and they had it at this really nice park they have there downtown that was like covered in shade, so it was super, super nice. And the car show was really cool. They had a lot of wonderful cars from all different types of decades and different stuff. I mean, of course, you had your Mustangs and a couple other stuff, but it was really, really cool. I think one gentleman had like a Ford Model T or something like that, and he was winding it up when we came by and getting it started and stuff, which was super cool. They also had the museum, which we knew some friends there that were doing that they kind of brought that to life in honor of the Cherry Festival, and had some people acting it in different games. If you're ever traveling through and you kind of like those small, like, corner things, I would highly recommend the Emmett Museum. It was really, really cool. And then the parade, I have to admit, now that I think about it, I've only been to like the Caldwell Parade or like maybe some 4th of July parades, and those are usually hot or really, really cold. And it was really nice to go to this one because it was like we got a little bit of light rain. And then also like the key thing, and I know for some people they probably wouldn't like this, but it was like spaced. What I mean by that is you have one float go by, and then there'd be like a spacing of maybe, I don't know, less than a minute, maybe 2 minutes or something, that there wasn't a one float or something, and they were able to kind of really enjoy each one of them as they came by. So it wasn't just one after another, one after another, and you're just kind of getting drowned by the amount of different floats and things going on. And it wasn't too horribly loud, Granted, I will admit they had I think the entire Gem County EMS and different stuff come down, which was cool to see, but they were honking their horns and everything. And I really wanted to keep waving and stuff, but I got to a point where I had to just plug my ears because it's too much. Stop honking and doing all these things. It's too much. It's too much. I can't do that. And it just kept going and going. But barring that, really, really great. I would highly recommend it next year if you've got some time during the summer to go visit and go do it. Hopefully next year the cherries will be ready on time so you can do that and go cherry picking. But honestly, overall, a really, really fun and enjoyable time. Granted, I got to kind of cheat and I didn't have to drive back in the commuting traffic after the parade because I know some friends there in Emmett and we just stayed to their place for the evening and then headed home after. So not the exact same experience as probably everyone has because I don't know how bad the traffic was coming back, but that is something to note. You might want to go kind of the back road way, the one over by Middleton, to kind of get past the really, really bad traffic. It'll add a little bit more time, but if you're one person that's fine with a little bit more time and less traffic, then that might be right up your alley. But with that said, that's all I have to share for the morning banter, and we'll go into the holidays and weekly facts and then the news. Starting off holidays and weekly facts, we have Monday the 26th of June, which is National Coconut Day. As for in history, in 1917, the first U.S. troops arrived in France during World War I. And in 2016, the Panama Canal's third set of locks were opened for commercial traffic, which doubled the canal's capacity at an estimated cost of $5.25 billion. As for birthdays, Monday was William Thompson's birthday and is Ariana Grande's 29th birthday. As for deaths, in 1938, James Johnson died, and in 1993, Roy Campanelli died. Next, moving to Tuesday the 27th of June is National Sunglasses Day, Ice Cream Cake Day, and International Pineapple Day. As for in history, in 1652, New York enacted the first speeding limit law in North America. In 1950, North Korean troops had reached Seoul. The UN asked members to aid South Korea, and Harry Truman ordered the U.S. Air Force and Navy into the Korean conflict. And in 1954, the first atomic power station opened near Moscow, Russia. As for birthdays, Tuesday was Paul Dunbar's and Helen Keller's birthday, and is J.J. Abrams' 56th and Tobey Maguire's 74th birthday. As for deaths, in 1844, Joseph Smith died, and in 2001, Jack Lemmon died. Then we come to Wednesday the 28th of June, which is National Logistics Day, Paul Bunyan Day, and National Alaska Day. As for in history, in 1820, tomatoes were proven not to be poisonous by Colonel Robert Gibbon after he ate several on the steps of the courthouse of Salem, New Jersey. In 1846, the saxophone was patented by Antoine Joseph. And in 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed in France, ending World War I. As for birthdays, Wednesday was John Wesley's and Richard Rogers' birthday, and is Elon Musk's 51st birthday. As for deaths, in 1836, James Madison died, and in 1914, Franz Ferdinand died. Thursday the 29th of June, is National Camera Day. As for in history, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act passed after 83 days of filibustering in the U.S. Senate. In 1966, during the Vietnam War, U.S. planes bombed the capital of North Vietnamese and the port city of Haiphong for the first time. And in 1994, the U.S. reopened Guantanamo Naval Base. As for birthdays, Thursday was Robert Evans and little Eva's birthday. As for deaths, in 1852, Henry Clay died. In 1967, Janie Mansfield died. In 1995, Lauren Turner died. And in 2003, Katharine Hepburn died. Now we come to Friday the 30th of June, which is National Meteor Watch Day and International Asteroid Day. As for history, in 1860, the famous debate on Charles Darwin's theory of evolution was held at the Oxford University Museum. In 1808, in the Tukuskin River region of Russia, there was a massive explosion that destroyed over 80 million trees. It is believed the destruction was caused by a colossal fireball, possibly resulting from an airburst of a large meteorite or a comet. This event has gone gone down in history as one of the most significant impact events ever recorded. In 1939, Adolf Hitler staged the blood purge of the Nazi Party. And lastly, in 1938, Superman first appeared in the DC Comics. As for birthdays, Friday was Willie Sutton and Susan Hayward's birthday, and is Mike Tyson's 56th birthday. As for deaths, in 1882, Charles J. Guiteau died, and in 1919, John Strutt died. Next, we come to Saturday, the 1st of July, which is National Ginger Stamp Day, U.S. Postage Stamp Day, and National Postal Worker Day. In 1908, SOS became the worldwide standard for help. In 1916, during World War I, the first battle of the Somme ended with the British Army suffering its worst day ever, with it losing 19,240 men. And in 1997, the United Kingdom gave Hong Kong to the Chinese Communist Party. As for birthdays, Saturday was Diana Spencer's birthday. As for deaths, in 1860, Charles Goodyear died. In 1896, Harriet Stowe died. In 1931, Alice Robertson died. And in 2004, Marlon Brando died. Lastly, we come to Sunday, the 2nd of July, which is National Wildland Fighter Day. As for in history, in 1776, the Continental Congress resolved, quote, "These united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states," end quote. And in 1964, U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act into law. As for birthdays, Sunday is Richard Petty's 85th birthday and Ashley Tisdale's 37th birthday. As for deaths, in 1566, Nostradamus died. In 1850, Robert Peel died. In 1961, Ernest Hemingway died. In 1973, Betty Grable died. And lastly, in 1997, James Stewart died. Now, moving into the news with our first story here. Jay Leno comes to Idaho. This comes to East Idaho News by Nate Eaton. Some really exciting news coming out of Eastern Idaho. Comedy legend Jay Leno will be performing his stand-up act live at the Shoshone Bannock Casino Hotel in Fort Hall, Idaho on Friday, August 18th at 8 p.m. As some may or may not know, Mr. Leno is best known for his 2 decades as the host of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, but currently he does the Jay Leno's Garage and hosted You Bet Your Life and other programs. Currently, he hardly does any TV work, but Mr. Leno does perform more than 100 stand-up shows annually across the country and internationally. He also participates in numerous charities and cooperative events, does voiceovers for animated series, pens child books, and writes a monthly column in various automotive magazines. For those interested in going to the show, pre-sale tickets went on sale last Friday, June 23rd, so you might need to rush and get yours, which is super excited to hear. I know I really have enjoyed watching some of like the older clips. You can find them on YouTube of Jay Leno kind of having guests and different stuff on. I will admit, and kind of it's a little bit of a side tangent, I feel like late night kind of shows and stuff have really fallen. Like, I'll go watch some of the older clips, and don't ask me for the names. I know I definitely am showing my age here, shall we say, because I don't remember most of them. But there's definitely a lot of late night comedians or different things that I would see doing interviews with different actors and stuff. And I really actually enjoy those, and I'll watch them from time to time if I'm feeling up for that type of thing. But like the modern ones, it just feels so preachy and prefabbed, and I'm like, I get way more entertainment and way more enjoyment out of something on YouTube or online or a shorts or something else or whatever else. And so it's kind of sad to see that happen, but it is still cool. I didn't know that Mr. Leno was traveling around, let alone doing like 100 different things around the country and internationally. And it's super cool to hear that he's going to be doing something here in Idaho in August. I actually am really tempted to go get some tickets and different stuff, but I know being here in the Treasure Valley, then you got to plan for like, okay, cool, it's at 8 p.m. That means you can't drive back in enough time. So you're going to buy the tickets, and then you have to consider the cost of like some lodging to stay over there for a night and then come back. So if you're going to do that, then you're probably going to want to find someone else to like split the cost with, whatever else. But then again, you know, how often do you get that opportunity to go see someone like Jay Leno? I would say he's pretty up there, a pretty well-known name, I think pretty popular, and has, I would say, a pretty clean sense of humor. I think that's one of the things that bugs me the most, and I know some other people are like, who cares? but I really don't like humor that's crass or relies a lot on a lot of like sexual innuendos and different things where it's really, really not needed. You can be funny, you can be ironic, and you don't need to go into that category or use cuss words, because I feel like it's kind of a lazy bit of comedy that if your thing's funny, you're not going to need cuss words and different things to shock the viewer into laughing and everything, because I feel like that's how it's used. It's used as a way to kind of jolt people awake or shock or whatever that causes humor or something, which it's effective at doing that, but I feel like it overcompensates for the fact that your joke just really isn't funny. Not to say there aren't certain sketches or comedy things I've seen where they've used cussing and stuff and it's funny, but I think Jay does a wonderful job from what I've seen and stuff, not getting into that, but it's still being wholesome and kind of that, I don't know what you would call it. And maybe it is a thing, maybe it isn't. Someone can reach out and tell me, but it feels like kind of that classic, traditional, like 40s, 60s, 70s, maybe 70, I don't know, like classic American humor that used to exist, that old-fashioned type of humor that anytime I find someone that does it, I've always enjoyed it and tried to go back to it because, yeah, I enjoy things in the past. I am a sucker for the 50s and the 60s and that more traditional type of standards, be it of humor or anything, a lot of it. Granted, I would not go back for medicine. I love modern medicine. We can stay with modern medicine for all of its faults. It keeps me alive longer and way more comfortably. I like the fact that I can get my tooth pulled and they can numb the area so I don't feel the pain of them pulling the tooth out or different things if they need to. So that's a big advancement. But in any case, I thought I'd let you guys know about this. So if you're interested, you can make it over there or hopefully grab some tickets before they run out. Moving into our next news story here, Goodbuy, a Boise startup focused on locals. This comes by the Boise Dad by Donde. As many of you know, I always love to share stories about Idaho companies that are growing and ones focused on the local community. Well, this one checks both of those boxes. A Boise startup by the name of Goodbuy is aiming to help shoppers find and support small businesses online and has raised a seeding fund around $6.3 million. Goodbuy, which was founded in 2002 by Carrie Fortin and Care Oppenheimer, offers a browser extension and standalone marketplace that allows users to shop their favorite online stores like Amazon and see other places to buy the same products that might better align with their values. The funding round was led by Boise venture capital firm Stage.0 Ventures, with Meridian VC firm Capital 11 also participating. Quote, "The traditional e-commerce model is broken," said Fortin, Goodbye's co-founder and CEO. "By default, consumers are being pushed by the same mega retailers again and again, the ones with massive markets and advertising budgets, who can in essence pay to secure these sales. Goodbuy is passionate about empowering small businesses and independent brands, leveling the playing field and providing consumers with brands that align with their values." End quote. Goodbuy said it has redirected $4 million in sales to small businesses since it was founded. The company works with more than 1,000 small retailers and claims 200,000 monthly active users of its product. Quote, "As we looked at the market, we noticed a tremendous opportunity for growth by tapping into the increasing consumer trend of online shopping at small business brands that align with consumer values, whether that be sustainable, Black-owned, veteran-owned, woman-run, made in America, and others," said Matthew Poplo of Stage. The value proposition of a platform like Goodbuy, reimagining how consumers discover and engage with small businesses online, resonates on both sides of the marketplace, and we're excited for Goodbye's next phase of growth. End quote. Which I've said it before and I'll say it again. I always love to see Idaho businesses growing and focusing on local stuff. And this is super, super cool to see that kind of those two things brought together with Goodbuy. I will admit, being a little bit more conservative, if you go to their page, and I didn't have it like in my notes or whatever else, but they do have an option to kind of like select LGBTQ friendly or whatever else. I could totally see where the company may be conservative because it's like here in Idaho, but they're trying to like cover their butts for funding and like the ESG thing that's kind of going on right now. If you don't know what that is, I would highly recommend you look into it, but I'm not going to talk about it here in the show. So I could see if that's the case, or if it's just purely, hey, we're not looking at ideology, we're just business people. We see that there's kind of this gap where people want to support small businesses, and small businesses can make a website, but they don't want to go through the traditional portals of Amazon and Walmart or different ones that get a certain percentage cut and kind of push this bigger overall thing. We want to kind of grow the small business space online particularly, and it not being on some particular platform. And if we can make a product that hopes to better interconnect people so you can have it installed on your computer, and when you're searching for something, it'll pop up and be like, hey, this same product there's this company over here that has similar ratings to it. You might want to check it out. It's local, or you can tell it to kind of filter your stuff. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me at the moment. There's something that's kind of similar to this. It's not the exact same. It's not based here in Idaho, but someone tipped me off to it. I think like Donald Trump Jr. is running it or kind of spearheading it a little bit. But it's like a site that purely says, hey, the whole goal of our site is we promote businesses that are American-made and hold traditional conservative values. And you can use our app to search online for those businesses, be it coffee shops. You can use it for like the location thing. Granted, here in Idaho, it doesn't work too well. But online as well, looking for conservative businesses to get your staples and different things from, which I think is super cool. It looks like here with Goodbuy, they're trying to go for a little bit more of a wider market of saying, hey, we could try to go purely conservative, but we see kind of that gap there. Super, super cool to see. I'm definitely probably going to add this on my computer because it sounds like it's like a free extension you can add on and kind of toy around with it. If you guys are curious and want an update, then please email me or send me a tweet on Twitter or just reach out to me in some way and let me know you're interested. And I might do an update video kind of on this, or not video, but podcast kind of segment to talk about kind of the experience, but still very, very cool and exciting to see that they raised $6.3 million and they have some nice backers there. Next story here is a fun one and kind of focused on the family and kids. Dinosaurs at Yellowstone Bear World. This comes by East Idaho News by Andrea Olson. For those with families or that one kid that just loves dinosaurs, this may be just right for you. This last week, Yellowstone Bear World in Rexburg, Idaho, opened a new attraction called Jurassic Creek. It is a permanent addition to the park featuring 20 interactive dinosaurs, including a life-size Brontosaurus. Understandably, the dinosaurs are stationary, but they do move, blink, and even breathe when you walk by. They are made of a rubbery silicone that aims to feel like reptile skin. There is a volcano that erupts with steam, pink trees, and green shrubs to complete the whole feel and theme. As for the cost of admission, Jurassic Creek is included in the price of admission to Yellowstone Bear World, which is $24.95 for adults and $12.95 for children. The park is open from May till September. But in any case, super, super cool. I know the Boise Zoo at one point did something like this. They had an exhibit, or not an exhibit, but they had dinosaurs kind of spotted all across the whole Boise Zoo and stuff, and kids could go walk around and see them. And I think they had like a Brontosaurus, but it was like this, I don't know if it's life-size per se, but that you could like climb up on it and kind of ride it or whatever else and different stuff, which was super cool. But it's cool to see that this is kind of like a permanent thing they're adding over there. I've heard a couple people talk about the Yellowstone Bear World over there. If you're not super familiar, I haven't gone for the record, so I'm kind of just speaking secondhand here. But if you haven't gone and don't know what it is kind of this, like, have you heard about those safari drive-thrus that you can do where there's these places in different parts of like the U.S. and definitely over in Africa stuff where they have these big areas where they have different types of animals. They'll have, lions or different stuff. I think they have the predators kind of divided or separated for obvious reasons. But then you can like get in one of their cars or your own cars and you can kind of drive through and it's almost like a pseudo safari and stuff. And you can see the lions and everything walk up and different things. Bear World, as best as I can understand, is kind of like that they have these big open areas with bears and stuff. I think they have some blocks along the roads or fencing and stuff where you drive, but you can kind of drive through and see all the bears and different stuff. But it is cool that they're adding kind of this separate bit in here for kind of little kids, and especially I've known so many little kids, and I definitely was in this phase myself, that just love the dinosaurs. I swear it's always like a little boy, and he's got his like favorite dinosaur he carries around and stuff. So if they're super into that, maybe it's like a fun day trip or just an excuse to go over to Yellowstone. You can drive over there I think it's on the Idaho side there in Rexburg and see it, and then drive the extra bit and have Yellowstone and like go on maybe Creations and Genesis field trip that they do pretty regularly over there in Yellowstone, and then kind of come back. And that would be a really cool experience, I have no doubt, for like a little kid that loves dinosaurs. But a cool development. I'm glad they're putting that in. Plus, I think they have like a fossil pit they're adding and some other stuff. So it's not just the dinosaurs. It's a whole kind of like Jurassic themed thing. But speaking of animals, coming into our next story, Rigby Draft Horse Show. This comes by the East Idaho News by Rhett Nelson. I had no idea this was happening, but it looks super cool. So apparently every year there's the Snake River Draft Horse Show. It is a 2-day event that happens in Rigby, Idaho, and this is its 3rd year. This show is a Classic Series hitch, which means it is a qualifying event for the national tournament in Indiana later this year. It seems to attract participants from all over the West. The show features a variety of competitions, including the main attraction where competitors drive a wagon pulled by a team of 1 to 6 horses that trot around the track. They also have youth and obstacle-driven competitions. The event is hosted by Wade Thornley, who says the draft horse shows are a lost art and that it is a chance for locals to see world-class horsemanship. Mr. Thornley has been around draft horses his whole life, and the Rigby event, he says, gives him a chance to educate people about this type of entertainment. He's involved in similar events at the Eastern Idaho State Fair every year, but it happens early in the morning and many people aren't able to get to see it. With that said, about 500 people attended the event the first year it happened, according to Thornley. After taking a year off in 2021, attendance grew to about 800 in 2022. Thornley is expected to have even more attending this year. For those interested in going, the event is from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Friday, June 30th, and Saturday beginning at 10 a.m. and going until 6 p.m. Tickets are available at the door, and organizers are encouraging people to bring lawn chairs because seating is limited. Which I can't say that I'm a big expert about horses and different stuff, really, honestly. I have a lot of friends that are really big into horses and have done a lot with them and know way, way more than I have. I mean, I've done horseback riding and I've really enjoyed it. And when I've gone riding with some friends that are really into that and that's their sport and thing, they said I've had really good posture, which is encouraging to hear. But I don't own any horses, so sadly I don't get to do that pretty regularly. If I did, it'd be super nice. I know some people that will go do horse backpacking in a sense that they go on a hike, but they use a horse to kind of travel it so they can travel further distances and further into the backcountry and carry more with them, which sounds super, super cool. I haven't pulled the trigger on trying to do that or set that up with someone, but that sounds like a really, really cool thing to do. On the flip side, if you're just curious, I know I would highly recommend going and looking at the photos on the East Idaho News thing that they have of the event. It looks super, super interesting. Even if you're not into horses, I think it would be really enjoyable. Then again, there's always that little girl, kind of coming back to the dinosaur one we talked about. There's always, I feel like, that little girl that loves horses. So this might be a really, really cool thing to do. I'm assuming they probably are going to have some separate pens and different things where after the show, you'll be able to see certain ones of the horses and stuff and interact with them. I don't know. You'll have to check that out for yourself, but it seems like a really, really cool thing. If I have some free time and it works out, I might end up going over there, or who knows, maybe later on in the podcast in later years or next year, we'll have to go over and do a video of it for the YouTube channel. Now we come to our last one and our fun story before we get to the interview with Forrest Tomlin. Idaho and the world's first nuclear-powered city. This comes by the Boise Dev by Ann Daly. Another cool and not very well-known record that Idaho holds. The town of Arco, Idaho was the first in the world to be powered by nuclear energy. On July 27, 1955, this impressive feat was accomplished by using the Borax-3 reactor at the National Reactor Testing Station, NRTS, which later became known as INEL. Although the nuclear energy only lasted for about an hour, it was a significant milestone in history. If you ever find yourself in Arco, Idaho, you may want to visit the INEL Museum, which is open during the summer 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. According to their website, it is the only place in the U.S. where you can view 4 nuclear reactors in the same place. They also stated they have 2 aircraft nuclear propulsion prototypes, a reactor control room, and other intriguing displays. Which, if you guys have listened for a long enough period of time, you'll know that I have a thing for nuclear. We'll put it that way. I'm a nerd, and I feel like we should be going back to using nuclear more for more things, and Idaho is positioned in such a wonderful, wonderful place to do more with nuclear. We have so much access to thorium and all the different thorium, and what's the other one? I think it's plutonium that you need for nuclear and stuff here in Idaho that we can mine. And then we have the leading research facility in the world, INEL here, that has developed a ton of really cool nuclear stuff. I mean, if you want to go into that history, I'd highly recommend it. It's really cool. They are the facility that kind of developed a lot of the nuclear-powered engines that are on the aircraft carriers and nuclear-powered submarines that were developed there. And a lot of the breakthroughs, they're also working on small thorium reactors and stuff. If you are in the know about that, that's a really cool field that's kind of going on right now. So we're doing a lot of really cool stuff over there. So, if you've got some free time and you're already traveling towards eastern Idaho and stuff, it might be really worth the visit to drop by. From what I know, it's not too horribly far. I think you can get there in 4 hours. I can't remember as of like recording right now. I didn't look up how far the drive time is over there to Arco, but it is definitely a interesting trip to say the least. And you can see some really interesting history and probably some Cold War things, I assume, because it seems like nuclear and the Cold War kind of go hand in hand for obvious reasons there. But definitely something I wanted to share, and I thought it was a cool, interesting fact that most people don't know about Idaho. So, moving into the segment with Forrest Tomlin. Super exciting. This is the first time I've done an interview slash segment on the podcast. So, bear with me here as I'm figuring stuff out, and hopefully it goes smoothly here. Today, I'm joined by Forrest Tomlin. In case you're not familiar with him, he holds the position of Gem County Youth Chairman and has been elected at the age of 18 and is a born and raised Idahoan, plus someone I have known and been good friends with for many years. Today, he'll be sharing with us what the Republican State Central Committee meeting is and what is happening at it. Welcome, Forrest.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and chat. I know we've had some long conversations as of recently.
Oh yeah.
But how are things up there at Chalice, right? That's where the Central Committee, or not set, it's like the State Central Committee. I keep getting that mixed up.
Yeah, it's going good. I talked to you a little bit before we started recording, and I was up in, I don't know if I'll say it right, the Samurai River.
Okay.
Okay, who's correcting me now? The Samurai River. But that's actually a Shoshone name for Grove by the River,
Okay.
and it's obviously Custer County after George Custer. So there's some cool ties up here. It's beautiful country, and I love it up here.
Right, right. Yeah, I was seeing some different photos from different people that I know that I follow that are going up there. And it looks really green and lush because of all the rain and everything we've been having lately, which has been nice, but then also kind of the flooding that kind of happened in eastern Idaho is not the best. And all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, on the one hand, I'm glad we're having it because the reservoirs are getting all nice and filled up and stuff, and we've needed that really bad. I remember when I was younger going and fishing over, I think it's like a Waihi Reservoir, and it's like it was so low at one point. There were areas where I'm like, I remember when I was there fishing, and that was all underwater and stuff. So it's crazy, but it's now full again, which is really great to hear. But enough, I guess, chitter chatter. We'll get into the main bit of it here. Number one, I guess, starting with our first one here. What is the Republican State Central Committee meeting thing? For those that may not know the relevance or importance, what exactly is it?
So the Republican State Central Committee meeting, so there's the State Central Committee, and it's comprised of 220-ish members, but four from each county. And what we'll do is consider resolutions and rules that affect inter-party dynamics. So you'll get different. So recently they passed a 12-month, you have to be affiliated with the Republican Party for 12 months before you can vote to prevent crossovers.
Right, right,
And but that doesn't apply to first-time voters because then that'd be kind of like, oh, you have to wait till you're 19 to vote.
right.
Wouldn't work out. And then resolutions are basically, this is what the party would like to see in bills and legislation in the upcoming session. And
Okay.
if they get passed, we have a House liaison and a Senate liaison, and they will just go and provide what we have passed. Hopefully, it makes it into a law.
And a law for like the party, right? I'm assuming is what you're referring to.
No, actually, like Idaho state legislator legislation.
Oh, okay, okay. So certain like agendas and decisions that the Republican Party's trying to then do in the legislature and stuff like that. Are you saying?
So I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. The one bill that was trying to prevent indecent material in libraries.
Mm-hmm.
That was passed as a resolution in the winter meeting, made it into a bill, passed the House and Senate. Governor governor vetoed it, then the override failed by one vote.
Right. Oh, okay. So kind of that process where
But
the party's like, what are
but
we trying to
basically,
go
the
for here?
resolution was passed to show that, yeah, it's like showing Republican support for, because what it's supposed to be is a representation of the state as a whole. So
Okay.
you have people North Idaho, Central Idaho, East Idaho, the Treasure Valley area, everywhere.
Okay. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. And so, kind of transitioning from that, you've got the meeting, which is happening, and correct me if I have this wrong. You got the meeting that's happening, and you're all meeting to vote on different things, be it for what the Republican Party in Idaho wants to do on the legislative side, and then also kind of standards and rules of order that's going to be happening on the internal side of the party, shall we say, that's not actually like legislative or whatever. Um, in that kind of thing, what all is planned for this meeting in particular?
This meeting in particular, I know about 20 rule changes that are proposed, and a variety of resolutions. I know that there's going to be a few that are rather contentious, and then also the residency debate of our national committee.
Okay, okay,
So that will all occur. So today is just the committee. So the rules committee and the resolutions committee will meet, and it basically works as a legislator. That it passes through committee. If it passes through committee, it goes to the full floor. And I am not a member of the rules or resolutions, so I'll just be watching until tomorrow.
right. Kind of see what ends up getting there fully and what doesn't, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And I see I kind of went a little bit out of order, and but I can kind of transition from that. Who all's like going to the meeting? So you, of course, you're there, being the youth chairman and different stuff. But who all kind of, how does that work? Who gets chosen? Who all's kind of going to this? Because I know you've got the Republican kind of by like the county, different groups of Republican Party stuff. How do people kind of get chosen to go to that? Or is it like certain positions are just by default
So
going to the meeting?
after the primary in May, the reorganization meeting with the new PCs decides who the leadership is. And you'll elect your chair, vice chair, state committee man, state committee woman, treasurer, secretary, youth chairman. The chair, state committee man, state committee woman, and youth chair are the four positions that get to vote at the state central committee.
Okay.
Then, in addition, there's the chairman of the legislative district is a voting member.
Okay. And then those legislative
And
chairs, we kind of, I guess we kind of talked about that a little bit on our off kind of recording session, but the chairs are determined not by the counties, but the legislative districts, right?
yes, by the PCs in that legislative district. So for my county, we are lumped together with Eagle, so a part of North Ada, and all of the PCs from Jim County and some of Eagle's PCs come together and they elect a district, but legislative district chairman.
Okay.
However, in a county like yours, Canyon,
Right.
or even Ada, you have multiple legislators and multiple legislative districts there that you can that basically it works as a Madisonian model. So that you have like the Senate and the House, but obviously in this case, you're not having like two senators from every state.
Right. Right.
It's for people from the county. But you'll get so like your county, I believe, has like 8 or 9. My county has 5. Ada County has probably a dozen or more.
Look at the population. I think it's the most population dense part of the state. You have like Ada County, and then I can't remember what Pocatello's county lands in, but I think they're like second in size, and then the third position goes to like the Lewiston or maybe it's Coeur d'Alene area. I kind of get it mixed up of if those are one county or if it's split.
Kootenai County, maybe.
Maybe. I'm not super familiar with the layout up north there.
Yeah. So also something I did not mention that is also important is that region chairs, there are seven of those. Those encompass multiple counties and multiple legislative districts, and those are also voting members. So there's seven voting members from the regions, but Ada County is also its own region, so they get another vote
Just
from
by
Region 4.
population, right?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
But in the winter state central committee meeting, we passed a reorganization-ish. Well, it's redistribution of the region chairs, like regions. So we made 10. Instead of having 7, we have 10 now. And that will take effect after the next primary.
Okay. Okay. So you kind of have like you've got this meeting which is more for policy and kind of stuff coming forward for the next legislative and different things and housekeeping, and then you'll have like another one that happens in the winter if I have that right. That's more of like, okay, how do we want to have the districts and all these different things kind of figured out for the party, right?
Uh, Basically, the winter and summer meetings are the same in structure, but obviously the topics change
Fair.
between. And like recently, I've only been involved for a year. I got elected a year ago,
Fair
and
enough.
yeah, but it seems like it definitely got more. Well, there's always shenanigans, but it got more heated
Well,
recently.
anytime you get more than two people together, you're going to have shenanigans. I mean, even with two, us humans
Yeah.
have a habit of making things complex and adding our emotions into equations where they sometimes don't need to be.
100% agree.
So, with that said, what is like the general? I mean, we've been talking about it a little bit here, but how in general does the meeting work? What's the kind of layout and how it all works for this session in particular?
So, what has happened so far in the process is that counties and legislative districts can pass a proposed rule or proposed resolution
Okay.
that I believe it just needs a simple majority and it passes. And that
Okay.
puts it on the docket to be discussed at the state central committee meeting.
Okay.
So we're all here now. At 2 is when check-in begins, and I believe 4 is when the executive committee begins.
For record, for
But we'll
everyone
have
listening, we're
a
recording this Friday, so that would be 2 p.m. Friday.
correct, yes. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Uh, Clarification is necessary.
Yeah, we're recording this post the meeting and
So
stuff.
we
We're gonna have
have
Forrest on next week to talk about what ended up happening and everything else. So you're kind of hearing this after the fact because the meeting ends Sunday. Is that right?
it will end well, it could end Sunday. It depends on how long it goes on Saturday if it becomes Sunday.
Fair enough.
So all we have a packet. A packet has been put out with all the proposed rules and all the proposed resolutions. A committee is there's going to be 2 committees, one for each, and their goal is to sift through, and they have 2 members from each region, so 14 members on the panel, and they go through and decide, is this necessary? Like if we have, I know last time we had duplicates for, because this was after the Roe versus Wade decision was,
That
or actually I think Jackson v. Dobbs, but
something
correlated
like that.
to the Roe versus Wade. Yeah, that they had, I think, 3 or 4 different counties, legislative districts have put forth a resolution. So it was basically like the presenters and the people who passed it working together with them to get the final product so that that can be passed through instead of, oh, there are 3 different, I don't know. It and then if it gets passed or modified by the Rules or Resolutions Committee, it will go to the general session, which is on Saturday. And that will go until sine die, and that can be whenever. So anybody can make a motion to adjourn. It needs a second, and then they vote to adjourn. If they get the majority or like the necessary uh, votes, then it's adjourned. But if people want to stay and keep talking, it can keep going until business is finished or people are just done.
Okay. Okay. So y'all, and I'll try to recap here to make sure I have it right. And then, for the sake of the viewer. So you'll have a set, you guys have you've got a proposed set or a docket, shall we say, of all the things that's going to be talked about that's been given to all you guys. And then through over the course of the next couple of days, you guys are going to meet and then have different votes on those if those proposed things are going to pass or if they need to be postponed till the next one or need to be sent down, I guess, to whatever county for more clarification. All right. Do I have that right?
Yeah. There can be motions to either table it. I know we'll get into this a little bit later. There is a proposed rule change to make four current voting members on the executive board ex officio members. That was slated for the winter meeting, but what ended up happening is in a narrow decision, they decided to postpone that to this meeting.
Okay.
But then also, if a presenter is not like they're really interested in the topic, but maybe they don't have like a full grasp of what it would do, they can take the next few months to work on it and bring it back.
Right. Kind of like where they're sitting there and so they presented it and everyone's kind of reading over it and they're like, man, I got a question here and I got a question here. And then a bunch of the people are like, this isn't making sense. This needs to be better defined. And so they can make a motion to kind of be like, all right, this needs to go back. They need to define X, Y, and Z stuff. Or it might be like, no, we just don't like this all, just kind of voted out. Or it's like, yes, we like this voted. Or we need to postpone this because the docket's already so full. We need to get to more pressing things.
Yeah, and that ended up happening. So in the winter, we were at the Riverside Hotel, and we had that reserved for a certain amount of time. And once our time was up, we had to be out. That's not the case here. But what happened is we had like 10 minutes for resolutions after we went through all the rules. And that's not enough time to discuss. I know we passed three. One of them was one of the counties out east was having a problem with because they're near Yellowstone Park.
Ah,
There was a proposed like 4-lane freeway, and that was going to cut off a like migration trail for wildlife, and it would harm their tourist like their dependency on
tourism revenue and all
tourism
that.
because people will go up there and hunt. So that was one that we ended up passing almost like we were just like, oh, do we have a second? Okay, let's pass this because like it was something that would help them try to fight that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great example there. So I think we've covered, unless there's
But
something else
everything
you want to
else,
add. Oh, what are you saying?
oh, I said everything else just got kicked to this meeting.
Okay, because you were just everyone was like, well, we only have 10 minutes, so we'll slate this for next time. Let's move it on because we got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I think unless there's something else you want to add, I think we've covered generally how it works. With that said, kind of getting into the more of the juicy bits of it, we have, I think, 3 topics here I have in my notes. If there's more, we might get in. I have no idea. But there's 3 main kind of big ticket items out of, I think, the 23. Is that what you said? 23 or something? Items that's going to be talked about. I think we have 3 here.
I could pull up my packet real quick. They have made a couple mistakes with like putting proposed rules under proposed resolutions and stuff like that
Uh
in
oh.
the email. So I'm scrolling for it. Alrighty, here we go.
Especially when you have like
It
volunteer
is spot on.
situations.
23 rules.
Woo! So 23.
Yeah.
I was right on the money there.
Did you hear that from me or did you hear that from someone else?
Maybe I heard my brain was just like I could have sworn in the back of my brain there was a part of me that's like I think it's 23. I think it's 23. I know it was 20 something. It's last I remember hearing from someone. Or I think you might have talked about it earlier. Somebody can probably go back and listen to this and they'll be like, Tyler, he said it. Don't take credit.
And there's 25 resolutions.
Okay, there's 25 resolutions. Okay. Actually, before we get into that, what is the difference between those two? You may have talked about that, but I don't quite remember.
So a rule is for inter-party. Basically, this would be, oh, you want to change how it is run. So you want to increase the dues that the counties pay. You want to decrease it. You want to make the dues non-existent. Um, you want to remove someone as a voting member and put them as an ex officio member, or you want to take an ex officio and put them as a voting member. And it can just go, basically, it's anything to change the bylaws
Okay.
of the Idaho GOP, basically.
Okay.
And then a resolution is basically like, this is what the voters of Idaho would like to see, or this is like a statement from the Idaho GOP. Because I do get Dorothy Moon's newsletters, and she uh, talks about like issues that are important to her and gives her point of view on it. So like the student from Kellogg High School, she had wrote a little piece on that. But this is more of, this is a collective, the party wills it more sort of thing. So like with helping out that county in eastern Idaho that was about to get a 4-lane freeway. I actually don't know what happened after the resolution got passed, but it's like, oh, if the entire, it looks like the entire state is backing you, then that helps.
Right. I can't remember what the legalese. My brain is blanking right now, but it sounds kind of similar to like a petition, but it's more in like the political area that's like, yeah, the Republican Party, here is our petition from our members and from everyone else that we're wanting this and we're resolved on this position based on our members and, leadership and everything else that we're showing our support. And people in the
Yeah.
party and other Republicans should be moving in this direction or whatever else.
Yeah. It's more of, it's,
I
so
mean, I know
there's
they're
the
different.
actual like codified law.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's policy. So like policy influences like codified statute law.
Okay.
And this is basically policy setting. And since the Republican Party is in the majority, I think they even have a supermajority right now in the legislature.
Yeah, I could have
They
sworn I went and like read that
basically,
Idaho has had like a Republican supermajority since like the 1940s or something, maybe even further back. But we've been
I
really
know that
staunchly Republican for a long
last,
time.
Idaho has had their last Democratic governor 1990, I believe. So
Been a wee bit.
it may not be as long as, but yeah, it's been enough that Republicans outnumber Democrats
By a
at
vast
least 2 to
majority.
1.
Yeah. So out of those 23 that we kind of mentioned that are going on, there was three that I know me and you kind of picked out that we really wanted to kind of focus on. That first one was the presidential primary election decision. Could you give people a little bit of context of what that is, what's going on with that? Because I know I didn't even know about it until you mentioned it and a couple other people.
So during the legislative session this year, there was a bill that was passed, and it unintentionally got rid of the March primary because the state was paying for it. And
Okay.
at least this is my understanding, is the state was paying for it, and they're also paying for the May election.
Okay.
So the decision was, do we move the presidential primary to May, but most of the other states have already made their decision. So then Idaho, with them having less delegate votes at the RNC convention, do we like, are we going to have a voice if we have it in May?
Right.
And it pretty much came to the determination that no, we have to have it in March so that even though we have like so few delegates compared to states like Texas or Florida, we
Right.
are still important in that decision making process because you never know how close it's going to be.
Right. And for context
And
for people, real quick, when we talk about presidential, we're talking about like the nomination if, Trump or DeSantis or different people get it, not a local like Idaho state presidential type of thing. We're talking about the president of the United States nomination for the Republican Party.
yes, and there are two proposals to fix that because the I believe it's Iowa has a caucus system and they've had it for some time where basically anyone who's registered Republican comes up to a location and they verify that they're a resident or Republican and they can vote.
Okay.
But it excludes military and people who may not be able, like elderly who may not be able to get to the polls.
Right.
So basically, it's no mail-in,
Okay.
and that's the caucus. And then there's also a second solution, and that is similar to our conventions that we have after reorganization, and that would be that each county will get 3 delegates plus one for every 1,000 registered Republicans who have voted in the last general.
In that county.
And then, yes. So, like a county like Jim, there'll be 3 automatic that we get. And then we have 7 other delegates that get a portion to us based off of registered Republicans who have voted.
Okay.
But like Ada has a lot more. I'm not sure their number. Canyon also has a decent amount. So
Right.
basically, what it'd be is you would have a meeting. The PCs would vote to see who would be going to that convention. We'll just call it a convention. And then at the convention, they'll decide who they're voting for, whatever lobbying will happen. There'll be about 700 people who are making this decision for all of Idaho, well, all the Idaho Republicans. And if a candidate gets over 50% of those 700-ish delegates, then they get all of Idaho's delegate votes through the RNC.
Right. Kind of a little bit of a tipping
However,
act
if none of the
there.
candidates get 50%, but if they get over 20%, so let's say Trump and DeSantis split it evenly, but some of the like lower down candidates, we call them like long shot candidates. So let's say like Asa Hutchinson, somebody votes for Asa Hutchinson, and so on, and then you get a couple here, a couple there, until nobody has a 50%. Those who are over 20% get basically it's proportional to how many voted for them percentage wise.
Okay. Okay. But I guess then the second one we kind of had to chat about was, and I know this one I've heard the most amount of talk about when I've been going to meetings and things, is the Idaho Young Republicans and the other like young the other young
It's
Republican kind of groups and their voting power within the party.
well, it's the Idaho Young Republicans, College Republicans, and Women Republicans.
Okay.
So those three, and then what what's also it so that was the original. See, this is why I said I'm not going to vote on things until or like say what I'm doing
Right.
until it actually happens because in committee, the state finance chair was not elected by the delegates in this at the summer convention or by a region members if you're a region chairman. So what they did is they ended up adding that in as well, since if we're going with the same logic that they're not elected by either delegates or county representatives or something like that, that we should also put the finance chair in there as well. So I'm glad that they're at least keeping the standard the same. But so that I did not mention that to you, but that is also included in the proposed rule.
Okay. Okay. So kind of the commerce chair is what you said, right? Or did I hear you wrong?
State finance chair.
The state finance chair. Okay, something with finance there. Okay. That's part also of kind of deciding the amount of effect he or she has on the party, right?
Yes, they will be ex officio members. There are currently a dozen or so ex officio members. I don't know the exact number.
And the definition of an ex officiary member is
That they have no vote, but they can provide commentary, testimony. Basically, they can lobby for what they want on the board, but they don't actually have a like one person, one ballot like vote.
one to one type of equation.
Yeah. So it's more of like what you are to positions like mine. Like I should be reaching out to people like you as a representative of young Republicans and be like, "Oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And I should be listening to your opinion and making the decision based on myself and how everybody else thinks. If I'm the only one who thinks the way, like if I'm like, "Oh yeah, we need to raise the dues to $25,000 for this small county," and they're like, "Well, that's not feasible." Obviously, I wouldn't do that. I don't
Right,
know.
right.
I use
A
they
little bit of
very
a
stream,
dramatic example, right?
but if I was saying that and everybody in my county is like, yeah, but if there was that, like I was going for that, I want it passed through the county central committee. I want to put it up into the state central committee. That's probably not going to fly, and I'm probably not going to get support. And I need to listen to my. It sounds weird, but my constituents,
Right.
because technically I'm not in the elected position, but
Well, you're sort of
also
elected
am.
that, like, you're elected in the party, but then you're elected for the job
Yeah.
of representing those that are in the younger kind of block of Republicans. So it's kind of an elected
Mhm.
position, but it's an elected position as a representative position within the party.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what ex officio members are to the state executive board.
Okay.
And I guess I should clarify what the state executive board is. That is the chairman, or in this case, chairwoman, first vice chair, second vice chair, secretary, treasurer, um, immediate or like the past chairman, representatives from congressional offices, and there's a list, but like some of the ones that you don't hear about is because they're ex officio members. But let's say Russ Fulcher or Mike Simpson, they still are representing Idaho and they still care about what's going on here. They can send a, it's my understanding they can send representatives there that can just
Right.
uh, have a discourse with the voting members and provide their opinion.
Okay. Okay. So we've got that kind of defined with the ex officiary members. And so the topic right now that's being talked about is currently the Idaho Young Republicans and those other couple groups, including I think the women's young Republicans or something like that, and then college young Republicans. They currently aren't ex officiary members. They are treated like full members. Do I have that right?
They are currently voting members.
Okay. And so the topic is, does the party want to keep them that way or change them over to an ex officiary member?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that is the main discussion.
Okay, okay. And then I think we talked about this, but for the sake of everyone here for context, how long have the like Idaho Young Republicans and these groups had that position as being voting members? Is it something that was started with the whole structure of the Republican Party here in Idaho, or is that something that was kind of a recent development?
Uh, uh I guess recent in a sense. My understanding from reading some, because I've been reading up on this issue, obviously,
Right.
and uh I've read some stuff that says that in the 1970s is when the Idaho Young Republicans at least got their vote on the executive board. And I
Okay.
know that there's a video on Facebook with Tracy Watson, and she says that they've had theirs for 50 years. So puts it right about the same time frame. So
So
it might have
roughly the
all
same
been,
that the Republican Party was making
yeah,
decisions
roughly
like
the
this of
same.
giving them that main voter status type of thing.
But I don't think there's like a rough pin down date, because if you think about the people who were making the decisions 50 years ago, unfortunately they're no longer alive.
Right. And it's not like here in Idaho, shall we say, I would think that we're someone or a place that keeps really stringent records of like everything. I mean, you need to keep a certain amount of records,
Mhm.
but that level of granularity probably doesn't exist anymore unless you talk to those people, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it's written down somewhere, and obviously the figure of the 1970s came from somewhere, and also um, Tracy Wasden with 50 years. They're getting that from somewhere, and they probably have a record or something that I have not seen yet. So
Okay. Okay.
um, at this at this point, I am believing them. Like I have full faith in that they're they've had that vote, those votes there for that length of time.
Okay. Cool. Well, it'll be interesting to see how that moves forward. I know I've kind of personally been on the fence a little bit. I know I've had some people invite me to join the Idaho Young Republicans. I've heard some of the drama, shall we say, of some of the things
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff they've done and haven't done and different stuff. So I know it is kind of a contentious issue. And I don't know if you want to call it organization or whatever. I don't know what the exact term is for them, but there seems to be a bit of an interesting conundrum that's kind of going on there and different stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how after this weekend, or as of people listening to this, you can go look for yourself. But it was decided in different things. It definitely will be interesting, and it'll be interesting to get your opinion afterwards, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you never know what happens on the floor. Um, Maybe a position gets taken out of that and they decide to keep one of them, or maybe they decide to go ahead with all four, or maybe they say, oh, we should keep all four. Anything could happen at this point. It's a you don't know,
It's a
because
wild
you're not,
west,
yeah, you're not inside the minds of every single person.
right?
You have a general idea, and we know that last time it was the motion to table it to this meeting was extremely close within one vote.
Right, right. So, a bit of a contentious issue,
So
especially when you're having that fine of a vote. Usually,
yeah, it was either 104 to 102 or like a 106 to 104. Basically, that if one person had, the motion to table passed, but if one less person had voted, then it would have been a tie, and then the motion fails.
ah, okay, okay. Interesting, interesting. And I guess,
And
and I
that
think
is
we've
my understanding, because as I said, I've been here a little over a year, and
right,
I'm still learning the details, and if things require a simple majority or super majority, sometimes it gets so chaotic that you don't know what's going on. And then at the last meeting, I had to abstain from some things because I had no idea what was going on and what people were changing.
like yeah, I'm not super well informed about what's going on here, so I'm just gonna kind of back off a little bit and let those that know a little better, so I don't make a rash decision.
Yeah, because at this, I know there was a youth chairman who was younger than me, but unfortunately, since then he has resigned. So I think I am still the youngest person in the room when I go there, which is cool. But then it's also like
Right,
you got to listen to people who've been in it
for quite some
a
time and have some
decade
experience.
plus. And some of
Right.
these people have been coming since before the millennium.
Which I know we'll be able to kind of unpack this a little bit more next week and stuff after it's happened, because it sounds like a lot of this is kind of hard to kind of get into the nitty gritties until after it kind of happens and everything.
It will be something that it's better to discuss afterwards, but I know we want to talk about it beforehand, so we just get like a before and after.
Right, right. We could be like, hey, we talked about this. These were the things that were going on. And then next week, we could kind of dive into it a bit more.
Yeah.
But with that said, I think we'll wrap it up here. For those of you interested in following more of the stuff that Forrest does over there in Gem County, he has a Instagram account at Tomlin for Idaho. You can go kind of check out there and follow for more information and stuff. I think you post pretty regularly on there, right?
It is one that I had just created because I had my personal account, but then I definitely have people that are on the left side of the traditional spectrum. Maybe if we're on a circle, maybe they come closer on wrapping back around. But those people probably don't want to see all my political stuff that I'm posting all the time. So I just created a new account. I have one post on there currently. I'll probably post something from this trip. At least I should. That is my duty to let the young people of
Right,
Jim County, elsewhere, anybody can follow me. Let
right.
them know what's going on.
Yeah, I can understand the nature of that
Yeah,
where you're like, I
because
should be posting something on there, but we'll see if it gets done.
yeah, because like I would be safe to say that 99% of people don't even know that my position exists.
Right? I
They don't
didn't.
know what's going on. A lot of them it's because they don't care. Some do care and they just don't know. They don't have an avenue to get involved.
Right. Which is a reason I wanted to have you on. And kind of another reason for the podcast is for people in Idaho in general to just kind of get more involved and understand how the political system and just general what goes on in the state so they can be better informed to kind of get involved and do that. Because, like anything in
Yeah,
life, we kind of know
because
this in the back of our
you may
head that if
have
we don't maintain a thing or take care of it and work on it and everything, it degrades. And so you need to learn how to regularly put maintenance and be involved in it to make sure it runs smoothly and in the way one wants it to run.
oh, oh yeah. And it may be good to note that I mentioned the Gooding County example, but there are some rural counties that don't have a youth chairman. So um, if you can't get in contact with yours, like they don't have any way to contact them, or you don't have one, also just let me know. Because even though I represent my county, I do like hearing from people from, let's say, you're from Canyon County, and I talk to you somewhat
Right.
regularly. Yeah. So, and then you can let me know what's going on too, because I know you have established contact with your youth chair, but you also want to let me know what's going on and how you think and what you want me to do.
Right. Because all of it has a certain effect generally on the party. I mean, things in general. If you talk to any politician or anything,
Yeah.
they're always
Yeah, everybody's
always
important.
hungry to know what people are thinking, be it if it's in their county or not, because it helps them better adjust how they need to move and what's important and what's valuable and what's not.
Yeah.
Well, I guess with that said, thank you for coming on, Forrest. We'll let you go here. I know you got to get to that 2 p.m. slot there for lunch and everything starting. Hopefully it goes great, and I look forward to having you on next week.
I will share some pictures with you. I'm gonna my camera quality is bad on the phone, but there are some we actually encountered. Sorry to go off on this tangent, but we there was some mountain sheep that were crossing the road as we were and
Oh, cool.
took
Yeah,
some
those are
pictures of
really cool to
those. So
see. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll have to post that over there. If you want to send it over, I can post it up on the local Yokel Idaho Twitter over there.
All right, yeah, I will definitely do that, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Forrest. Now, moving into the quickies. Hopefully, you enjoyed that interview. But the quickies are a section where these are stories that I wanted to talk about with you guys, but weren't worth a full segment to talk about and everything. With that said, first one here Boise Bicycle Project founder retires. This comes by KTVB7 by Andrew Bartlein. After 16 years, the founder and executive director of the Boise Bicycle Project is stepping down. Jimmy Halliburton founded the Boise Bicycle Project in 2007 in the wake of the Castle Rock fire. summer. The organization's mission is to make Boise the, quote, bicycle capital of America, end quote, by providing anyone with a bike regardless of income, teaching them how to fix their bike, and ensuring quality places to ride that bike in every neighborhood. Under Halliburton's leadership, the Boise Bicycle Project has grown to become one of the most robust nonprofits in Idaho. The organization has provided 12,000 kids with bikes and has spearheaded the annual Boise Goat Head Fest, which aims to remove 7.5 tons of invasive weeds from the city. Halliburton said he is confident that the Boise Bicycle Project will continue to thrive after he steps down. He plans to release the executive director job posting on June 23rd with a target hiring date of September 5th. His last day at the Boise Bicycle Project is scheduled for September 29th. Quote, I started this place when I was 25 years old, Halliburton said. There's nothing I love more than the Boise Bicycle Project and the people that are involved with it, and so I want to make sure that whatever I do leave, I left in a really, really good spot, end quote. Next is BSU Stadium gets LED lights. This comes by KTV B7 by staff. This last Wednesday, it was announced that BSU is upgrading its lights at the BSU Stadium. For most of the stadium's life, like others, it has not had LED lights. Well, this week they started working on replacing them with a full LED setup. This comes as BSU has been doing some major upgrades to the stadium, including building out the end zone. So maybe next time you're there, you might notice a little bit of a brighter light getting thrown on the field. Next is a little bit of a political one. Nampa school passes sexual orientation policy. This comes by KTV B7 by Emily White. Last Monday, after a second reading, the Nampa school board passed policy 2050. This policy prohibits gender identity, sexual orientation, transgender identity, and gender expression from being taught in all grade levels in Nampa schools. The goal of the policy is to remove the school from topics that the board feels should be left to adults to talk about with their children in private. It also hopes to prevent staff from having conversations around students that they or their parents do not approve of in public settings. Quoting Jareth Kirkman, quote, there is no place in the world where the school district becomes the parent to that child. They become the caregiver or the guardian for a certain amount of time, but they do not become the parent, end quote. The policy passed with a 3 in favor and 1 opposed. Mandy Simpson was the only one opposed to the policy. Next is forest fire southeast of Boise. This comes by KTV B7 by staff. On last Wednesday night, a wildfire broke out 10 miles southeast of Boise. As of the writing of this script, it had burned over 500 acres near the Black Creek Road. However, on last Thursday at 9:22 p.m., BLM announced on Twitter they had successfully halted the fire's progression and were now getting control over it. Authorities are still investigating what was the cause of the fire and are urging people to exercise caution to prevent such incidences from happening again in the future. And lastly, we come to our last quickie here. Teenager arrested for shooting cows. This comes by East Idaho News by Kately Hart. A juvenile is in custody after admitting to shooting and killing 5 cows on Swan Valley, Idaho. The cows were found dead on Sunday afternoon by a rancher who discovered them on his property. Deputies from the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office were called to the scene and began investigating. Information from nearby ranchers led to deputies to a vehicle of interest that had been in the area at the time of the killing. On Monday morning, deputies made contact with the teenager who was associated with the car and admitted to killing the cows. The juvenile was arrested and booked into the 3B Juvenile Detention Facility in Bonneville County. Multiple counts of felony injury to property are currently pending. The value of the livestock was estimated at more than $22,000. Thank you for listening to the entire podcast. I sincerely hope you found it enjoyable and valuable. If I missed any important points or provided incorrect information, please feel free to reach out to me via email at localyokelidaho2022@gmail.com or tweet me on Twitter at localyokelidaho. As a one-man show, I'm not able to cover everything, but I do my best to cover as much as possible. Thank you for your continued support and assistance. That's all for now, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Godspeed.